Eh? And we are live. Here we are, ladies and gentlemen, once again, back on our regular night, Sunday night, with yeah, an uplifting and inspiring tale that's sure to give you all kinds of warm feelings or something. No, I'm kidding, folks. We're talking Pan's Labyrinth tonight as part of our Through the Door series from 2006, Guillermo del Toro's film that pretty much got him introduced to pretty anyone who had not familiar with him. Pan's Labyrinth, I would say, yep, here's Guillermo del Toro. And so we're doing that film tonight. We're going to be talking about it, going into it. So thank you for joining us, venturing down the stairs, pulling up a chair and popping or pouring your favorite drink with us. I actually have water tonight, and our good friend here, one of our two crew members, the wonderful folks who volunteer their time to be here on the Spoiler Room. One of them, man, myth, the legend himself, Joe Randazzo, is making himself some tea, so he will be with us momentarily. He's pouring one of his favorite drinks. And the other man who's with me, my right-hand man, keeps coming back. Always happy to have him here, Mr. Ian Simmons. How you doing, Ian?
Doing well. Before we get any further, I must correct the record, sir. Hellboy was the movie that put Guillermo del Toro on the map.
Okay, yeah, sorry.
2 years earlier.
Sorry, you're right. Hellboy. I couldn't remember if Hellboy was before or after this, but I know Pan's Labyrinth was the one that I remember a lot of people talking about.
Well, it was big because it was a foreign language film, all in Spanish, and I think that drew a lot of more people's attention to his Spanish language work because he'd done a number of films, before Hellboy, which is what got him noticed by Hollywood. So yeah, I mean, either way, it's very important to his career and one of the highlights, I think.
Oh, absolutely. I'll definitely say, and it establishes his style because while Hellboy was it was the adaptation and what we were talking about before. If you want to hear that conversation, check out our Patreon. Real cheap to listen to the conversation before the conversation, but he was doing an adaptation of someone else's work. And Pan's Labyrinth is, this is like introducing you to pretty much his signature style, his storytelling. That's all his. Pan's Labyrinth is all his. And that's why one of the reasons I picked it for the month is because I wanted to talk about it because this is a film. This is one of the few films in the last 20 years. Wow. 20 years old. Yep. This is one of the first films in the last 20 years that still has stuck with me to this day for many reasons, which we'll get into. But I remember first seeing this and I saw the buzz and I saw the trailers and visually it was already striking me because I'm just like, oh, what's this? The bizarre, look at that career. I gotta see this. And what was great is the trailers did not really give away what the story was actually about. When they promoted this, they leaned heavily into the dark fantasy aspect. I didn't expect this whole other layer of historical drama that just is brutal in this, and it weaves it into the dark fantastical. And I'm like, wow. So when I watched this, I was floored at the fact that, okay, this isn't just a straight dark fantasy movie. There's a whole nother thing going on here that I didn't expect in a positive way. I'm not saying that in a negative way. I'm just saying when they promoted this, they leaned into the fantasy stuff, probably because of Hellboy, and then you're watching it and you're like, wait, what? What are we doing with the military here? So that was my reaction, but I loved it because this is in my wheelhouse and that. And Joe, what about you when you first saw Pan's Labyrinth?
Well, if we pull up the date that the DVD came out, that's the date I saw it because I missed it in theaters. I had heard it was phenomenal. And my girlfriend at the time, her and I really liked Blade 2, which was Del Toro. And a friend of mine had The Devil's Backbone on DVD and loaned it to me. And I was like, oh, my God, this is amazing. And this is actually a great companion piece to that.
Yeah, it is.
And yeah, I remember my reaction just being like, this is amazing. And I overheard you guys when I was making some tea. I also didn't expect the movie to be as layered as it was. I didn't expect it to be a commentary on fascism and living under Franco. Yeah, a lot of the things that happened in this movie, like you said, I thought going in this was going to be like a dark fairy tale, like a Tim Burton style movie. Though Burton, Burton does use a lot of subtext too, but not to the level that Del Toro ever does.
Yeah.
And I think my reaction at the time was that, it must have been later on, because Burton was still at least a couple years after making Big Fish, and he had just made Sweeney Todd, which I also liked. But I remember a couple years went by, and they were running kind of neck at neck. And then at one point I went, all right, Del Toro's over here. Burton is dropping rapidly. And it's interesting because this is maybe the movie that got him, maybe not mainstream, noticed by the mainstream, but I think this is the movie that got him noticed by critics. I'd say this was the one that made the critics stand up and go, okay, this guy's going to be something special. And I think creatively, this was the time he was at his peak, but it wasn't for another decade until he would win Best Picture with The Shape of Water.
Yeah, which is crazy, because if I prefer this one over, and I love Shape of Water too, but I prefer this one. I think
this might be his best movie. Rewatching it now for the first time since it came out in 06, 07, whatever it was, I think this might actually be his best film.
It's a baby of his, you could tell, is definitely.
Oh yeah.
But what about you, Ian? When you saw this?
Yeah, I saw this in I think it was like January of 2007. So I think this came out in late 2006. I remember it was a whammy of a week because I can't remember which I saw first, but it was Pan's Labyrinth and then Children of Men.
Oh, geez.
Like quick succession. So it was like great way to start off. Feature. Yeah. But both phenomenal films. I love them dearly. But I'm glad to be here talking about one of our Through the Door episodes that I actually like the movie.
Yeah.
And this film underscores with a giant highlighter and a Sharpie marker and gold stars why the other movies we talked about in this series don't work. Because our Ophelia character is, she's a real little girl with emotions and curiosity and flaws, and she's in this world that is interesting, in spite of her. It's not just all about like what's going on in her mind. There's a big conflict that she is embroiled in, and there's so many here's that word again, layers to peel apart with all the different characters and thematically and just in terms of what is actually going on. It's a beautiful film. I'm there with you, Joe. I think this might be. I've only seen Crimson Peak once, and that movie really knocked me out. But I think this is probably his signature film. And I hate to say it, I don't think Del Toro has made a good film since Crimson Peak. I hated The Shape of Water. I despise his Frankenstein. I mean, we were talking about the Wuthering Heights differences. I mean, Del Toro, much like Emerald Fennell, claims to the press that it's his favorite. He wanted to adapt his favorite book of all time to the screen, and I don't even know if he's read it, honestly.
Yeah, I didn't hate it. I still think the most faithful adaptation of Frankenstein is a 1972 TV movie called Frankenstein: The True Story. Excuse me. Which you can find on Blu-ray from Shout Factory. I think that was the closest we ever got to the novel done exactly the way Mary Shelley wrote it. But I felt like he spiritually had. I feel like he picked up spiritually what Frankenstein was about. It's just he obviously made a lot of changes that you might not be the biggest fan of, and
we can litigate that another time. But
we're not here to talk about that.
I would argue if you make that many changes, then you are not capturing or paying tribute to the spirit of the work.
It's fair enough.
Back
yeah.
to Pan's
So we can
Labyrinth.
discuss it another time. Yeah, absolutely.
That is Frankenstein, but we're talking about Pan's Labyrinth. But it's involving the same person, Guillermo del Toro. But this one he also wrote the screenplay for. And who would like to give the synopsis of this? Or I can do it. Joe, go for it.
Well, Ophelia is 11 years old, I think, in Spain in the 1940s. Her father was a tailor who is no longer with us, died in the war. Her mother is now the lover, or I'm sorry, new wife of a fascist captain. And she is sent to live with them, or she moves in with her mother to live with the captain. Her mother is pregnant with the child that the captain swears is going to be a boy.
Yes.
Even the point where the doctor asks him, how do you know it's going to be a boy? And his response is basically some variation of, you're fucking with me, right?
Yeah, he did. Yeah. He says basically, don't fuck with me, doctor.
That's what it was don't fuck with me, not you're fucking with me.
Yeah.
So she comes upon a fairy who leads her to meet how do I describe this? A faun? Is that what he technically is?
He calls himself Fauno or Fawn, but
Fauno. Yeah, it is Fauno. Who tells her that she's actually a princess and her father is this really big deal in his world. And it comes off at first, I mean, even at the end, it comes off as all of this being in her head. It's her way of escaping the real horrors of what's going on. Even from the very beginning, when she meets Mercedes, the maid, she sees her sneaking, what was it? She was sneaking something.
Antibiotics and other things.
Sneaking antibiotics off, and that comes off. That comes back to play later on. That the doctor gives her. She's part of the resistance. At the same time that Ophelia is dealing with, or not dealing with, is escaping into this kind of dream world. The resistance is in the mountains, basically about to strike, and the captain knows it, and he doesn't realize that he has the resistance right in his own home. And there's a line in there about overlooking the one of the main key people in the resistance, and we'll get to that because that's towards the end of the movie. I mean, I guess we'll just kind of take off from there because everything.
I mean, and her mom, who's pregnant, is having troubles with her pregnancy.
Yes,
because she's being moved around by this doctor, by this captain.
By the captain, because the doctor tells him you should not have been moving her around, and he's not the kind of guy that takes any criticism well.
No. Sergi Lopez plays Vital, the antagonist, the brutal, sadistic captain, to a T. And we'll get to the fantasy part of it in that, but I want to just pull up and talk about him right away because, you're dealing with, the fascist regime. It's based on, historical events. This is 1944, actually. So you've got the Allies moving into Europe, German-controlled Europe, and Spain was, I think people forget about Spain and what was going on there. They're under a fascist regime.
And incidentally, Spain is the one that had the fascist regime for the longest.
Yeah.
Because it lasted well into the 70s.
Right. So, I think people kind of forget that. So there's Del Toro right there kind of giving people a little history lesson like he likes to do. I mean, Devil's Advocate or Devil's Backbone is another one. Not Advocate, completely different movie.
Well, Devil's Backbone's dealing with the Spanish Civil War, and I think the early part of the 20s.
But I mean, he's taking historical events. So here we have Vital, who
that's just real quick, Mark. It's Vidal.
Excuse me, Timmy. Vidal. Pardon. We have Vidal here, who is an interesting character because you might picture him in, if this was Nazis, this would be the blonde hair, this would be like the Udo Kerr character.
Yeah.
But it's not. But what I think is interesting is they do give him a little bit more of a layer than just bad guy. He's not, the mustache twirler or the complete. There's moments in here where they actually show that he has some shit going on underneath of why he's doing it, but without exposition. You've got to pay attention with this character, because they have these moments, like the story comes up about the watch he has, which is kind of interesting. At first you're like, oh, he's got a broken watch and then he's working on it to make it work. And then you hear the story later that someone asks him, didn't your father give you his watch at the time he died so you could remember his courage? And you think back, they don't really focus on it, but you think back, you're like, wait, is that the watch he just got working? I mean, this guy's such a piece of work, but he's also more than just brutal captain. Or am I off on this, Ian?
No, I mean, you're right. I mean, he is a bastard through and through, and they do kind of, suggest that his dad was probably not the nicest guy, and he kind of grew up in the shadow of him. But they also go to great pains to show that he's the real deal. He's not just the guy to sit back in the tent and send other people off to do his dirty work. I mean, he's running up into the mountains, interrogating people. He gets into a firefight with a group of rebels, and he's up there, behind the trees, and then going out and just like shooting wildly yet accurately at a number of people. So I mean, he's a really interesting character, and his very final scene,
yes,
it's twisted, but I think it's the most human that we ever see him. Like, I'm terrible, but my son, maybe if you can pass a little bit of something on from his old man, like, no, he's not even going to know your name.
Yes,
Just wonderful. One of the all-time great, like that, and Hans Gruber, I think, are up there as like great villain deaths.
I mean, it's perfect because he's a guy who he seems to almost get off on the idea of having control over everybody, and everybody's going to do my bidding. And it's spoken in a line of dialogue that his father died with that wristwatch in his hand because he crushed it at the moment that he died, so that his son could know exactly when he died.
Yeah, that's
and
what
he
it
has
was. Yeah.
the scene Ian's talking about. He has a wristwatch in his hand. He stands firmly, head up high, and begins to say, I want you to tell my son. And that's when Mercedes says, no, he won't even know your name. And her brother shoots him right in the face.
Yeah.
Well, and he deserves it, though. He deserves it, though, for what he did. That's the thing is, it's.
I wish we probably talk about what he did, too, because he did a lot of things in this movie.
Oh, we'll get to that. But just the brutality we see him throughout. You're right, Ian. And then this is a guy who is not afraid to get his hands dirty. But again, there's something underneath, too, because as brutal as he is to everybody, the one person he listens to for now, because she's pregnant with his child, is Ophelia's mom, Carmen. He actually listens to her. I mean, there's a moment in there where she tells him, could you step out of here because I need to talk to you? And he's like, okay. And he leaves, like, very calmly, like, and you're just like, wow, he didn't like pull like, manly rank or anything on him. So there's a part of him that is underneath that you almost get the feeling like he doesn't let through often at all, or it just like a crack or a hint of maybe he cares for something outside of himself and his pride. I mean, we're not even talking, this isn't even like a banner waving guy. This isn't like, oh, this is for Spain or whatever. He doesn't really do that rah-rah either. It's like, I'm the captain. I rule this, like you said, Joe, and this is my company, and we're going to take out these rebels. They're below us.
Well, I mean, there's a bit more to it than that, because I mean, their essential mission is to stomp out the rebels who they believe are communist infiltrators who are trying to take over the government, right? Mm-hmm. So the one criticism I have of this movie, I didn't really pick up on it until watching it, tonight, is they give a dimension to Vidal that they don't give to the rebels.
Oh,
The rebels are one-dimensional cartoon characters who are meant to evoke nothing but sympathy. They're not real human beings. They are the good guys who are fighting for what's right. You've got the stutterer guy, you've got the kindly doctor, you've got the woman who's, the Mercedes is infiltrating the the Death Star for all constant purposes, but there's no dimension to them. There's no question that what they're doing is a righteous mission. I would imagine that in a conflict that's been going on that long and is that brutal, there's some blood on their hands too, and not necessarily in the most flattering, like, oh, we're just shooting guys from a distance. I wonder what they would have done if they'd gotten a hold of one of Vidal's soldiers. So I know that's not the point, but it just gets a little bit heavy-handed in the kind of propagandistic sense of like, yeah, this is my reading of history. That's fair, but when he shows a bit of balance in one area but another, it's just a little bit of a head scratcher.
Well, we do see what Mercedes would do if she gets one of these guys, because we see her do it to Vidal when he has her tied up.
That's different though, because she's not trying to get information out of him. She's trying to survive.
Right.
She's trying to avoid being tortured. It's not like a good example would have been the ambush in the woods where she is rescued. The one guy makes it back on horseback. What would have happened if he had not made it back, if they had stopped him? We don't get a chance to see what that would have looked like.
Yeah, I do get what you're saying too with that, is that they're basically just out there and they're the good guy. I mean, that's all they are. Good guys. There isn't really layer to them. You're implied that these guys are just righteous in their mission. They're doing this. They're killing the fascists, so you don't really question it too much. But at the same time, it's like they're doing guerrilla warfare basically in the woods.
But the weird part about it is they are communists. And what do we know about what happened in Europe after World War II with the fall of the Nazis? You have the rise of the communists. And they were not exactly great folks. So it's like, who are we rooting for here and why?
Well, I think when you also realize that in Spain, the communists really didn't really come to power, because Franco's regime kind of stayed in power for the next 3 or 4 decades. And I guess
and
it makes it a little easier to be like, well, they never got to power, so we could kind of excuse it.
But then again, when you see what did happen in history when the communists did get to power in other countries, then you start to question, well, why is it such a bad thing that Vidal is trying to stomp out this thing from happening? It's kind of like, well, the Nazis, they never really got anywhere.
Well, yeah, but I mean,
no, I'm saying I know the Nazis did get to places, but I'm saying it's sort of a similar thing. Like if you have this little wellspring popping up, would you not do everything you could, and maybe even going to extreme measures to stop it if you knew it was coming? These people didn't know it was coming because they're not fortune tellers. But I'm saying, looking back through history, it's very hard to paint a communist uprising, even against a fascist regime, as being something that is good for everybody.
Well, there is that. Oh my God, what was a sketch comedy show where you have the 2 Nazis? It's like a British show. And
Are we the baddies?
Yeah, are we the baddies?
Yeah.
In history, nobody ever thinks they're the bad guys.
Yeah.
So.
Right, but what I'm saying is Del Toro, in writing Pan's Labyrinth, this entire thing, as we've established, is his baby.
Oh yeah.
He is painting the communist insurgents as the heroes of the story throughout the entire story. I'm not, he's right. He's fine to do that. But I'm just saying it's a little bit odd watching this because they only mention it once. And that is Vidal going through like the satchel of the hunters who turned out were probably innocent and not necessarily partisans, but they don't get really into the philosophy of either side, in fairness, throughout the film, because I have a feeling if, this guy ends up like quoting Lenin and Marx, like saying, yeah, we can't wait to topple Vidal and his people so we can install communism, if that would sit that great with general audiences.
Well, I mean, I don't know if general audiences would necessarily even get that aspect of it, because
the Cold War was not even 20 years removed from the time this movie came out, and that was all about the objective of stomping out the communist menace.
I would also say that they keep actual mention of the rebels being communist to a minimum. They refer to them more as just rebels.
That's what I'm saying. They mentioned at the very
yeah.
beginning of this 2-hour movie, and then it never really comes up again. So it's
Right.
very easy when you've got Vidal, who is doing all these monstrous things and executing people, to paint the rebels as being the default good guys, but without getting really back into what they are fighting for.
Right.
I'm throwing this conversation way off into a different direction. I'm
Yeah,
just saying
we're
this is something
starting.
I
We're
picked
starting
up
to talk
on.
European history.
Now we're
Yeah, there
talking
you go.
Welcome to the history lesson that is the spoiler room, folks. No, but bringing it back to here, Vidal. The reason I wanted to start talking about him is just because he is, integral in this story, and I watching it again. It's like they make, he's a bad guy, but they do a very good job of bringing him to the edge of being cartoonish, but not like the caricature. Like he's brutal, but he's not so overly brutal that you're just like, oh, like we've seen some fascist captains or something portrayed, to the point of it's like they took the cookie cutter of here's a bad fascist captain and they went like this. He's got just a little bit of a layer to him to make you understand at least him. You're not liking him. You're not supposed to you don't like this guy. He's an awful person, but at the same time, he's not just awful person A. You get a little bit of a layer going. He's awful probably because of this. And here are his flaws because he is the way he is. And you're not meant to like him. You're not meant to forgive him. But I think it is good to give your villain at least a little bit more. It's why you mentioned it, why Hans Gruber is still one of the greatest villains to be on, because he's more than just the brutal guy who's killing people and there's some, he's a person, not just a caricature.
And I think that his whole outline is there in his introductory scene where Ophelia and her mom are, in that kind of procession going through the forest, and they pull over because the mom gets sick.
Mm-hmm.
When they get to the camp, Vidal is looking at his watch and he's like 15 minutes late. What's going on? The mom shows up and the doctor's there with a wheelchair. And he's like, here, we brought this for you to get you up to the house. And she's like, no, I can walk. And Vidal leans in and he says, please do this for me. Because he had said in front of everybody, here, I brought you this wheelchair to bring you to the house. That's a soft, direct order to his wife. But he's like, just do this for me.
Well, and then you even have that just before that, when they're driving up and they pull over and because she's sick, and just before she has a conversation with Ophelia saying, now when you see him, call him father. And she's looking at him like, he's not your father. Call the captain your father.
Right, because this is all about what the other people in that camp think about his authority.
Right.
Yeah.
Down, not even just in the context of military, but down into the way that he treats his family and the way that they treat him with absolute unquestioning reverence. And it's not, you could have done that in a great big speech where he's like, I'm the captain and you will refer to me as what? No, they do it. And he's Del Toro is so good at these little moments that just inform the character. It's great to see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it sets it up, and you realize who you got right away, and it carries throughout the film. And this is a guy that you just more and more don't like, especially to the end, which we will get to the end. But before that, we have our Ophelia character, who, Ivana Baquero plays her, and I just love her performance in this. I mean, for a young actress, the way she plays this character, I think you said it, Ian, she brings to this child character in a dark movie something that we mentioned was missing in the other previous films we've talked about this month, as far as what is going on and when she runs into weird shit. Because I mean, she isn't like running screaming when she sees the fanciful stuff, like when she sees the fawn, who, oh man, I just love the Del Toro's mind when he gets to do his own thing, and the production design of this film and of the character, which it was Doug Jones who plays Fano, and in practical makeup that just looks freaking phenomenal. She doesn't go running screaming, but she is able to play this character to where you can tell she's afraid, but she's trying not to be afraid, which is different than just being, oh, hi, you're a weird horn dude down in this pit. No, you can see behind her eyes. She's like, this is freaking me out, but I'm not going to tell him he's freaking me out, but he's freaking me out.
Oh yeah.
And I think that adds a layer too for selling Fano, because let's face it, when we all see him, we're like, oh.
I mean, your immediate reaction is that's got to be the bad guy, because he just looks like, almost satanic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they play that right up to the very end with the, we need one drop of blood from an innocent.
Yep.
Hand me your baby brother. And there's a nice twist to that, because it doesn't, it turns out Ophelia also qualifies as being an innocent, because she, aside from disobeying, the kind of the warning about taking food from the pale man's table or whatever.
Yeah, the sumptuous feast.
Right. I mean, she doesn't really do anything wrong.
No,
she's sneaky in terms of getting around the captain and everything, but yeah, she maintains her innocence throughout this whole film without being boring or trite or one-dimensional. She's a real character.
Yeah, well, and the world that they set up for this, I've talked about to people, and we've mentioned it here on other shows, that when you're doing a film like Pan's Labyrinth, where you're showing the fantastical, you got to have it feel like there's some rules to that world, but you also got to build it at least enough so that you buy into it. And I think Del Toro does a great job, because when she first arrives, just before they get there, while her mom's being sick, she puts that piece in the statue to complete the face, because she finds the eye in the missing statue, and then the bug comes out and she calls it a fairy, and then we see that thing later on. But then when they arrive to the house, Mercedes tells her about the old labyrinth that is on the grounds of this place that has been around since before the village. And that's all you need to know. I mean, the way, because he knows it's visual. So you see old stone shit that looks really cool, and been there forever. And she establishes, oh yeah, you don't want to get lost in there. That's been around since before. I'm like, okay, we've got our setting for our creatures. They're ancient. And then we meet, Fano, whose design is all nature built in. But you're right, it has a little bit of a satanic angle to it, which including mentioning how once she does the 3 tasks for him, they'll soon be walking through the 7 garden circles in the underworld. And I'm like, 7 what?
But I think this is also Del Toro kind of turning. I don't know if he's still Catholic. I know, he grew up Catholic.
Right.
That might be him kind of turning conventions on their ear and being like, the quote unquote satanic creatures or what we perceive to be them are actually the good guys. That might be just him playing with conventions.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if this is I would say this more like pagan than
it's
outright
pagan. Yeah.
Satanic. Yeah. There's a sinister quality to the fawn, which ends up. Oh my God, he's Slugworth from Willy Wonka.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is. And he shows up at the very end like, hey, you made the right decision and everyone's happy. I was working for the good guy the entire time.
Is this real though? Like, is everything we're seeing definitively real?
Yes.
You think so?
Yes, and I can say that because we have that entire prologue where the narrator with the fawn is talking about this ancient mystical world and the lost princess and all that stuff. If that prologue had not been there, then I think the very final shot of Ophelia lying, bleeding and Mercedes crying over her, then it could be implied that this was some fantasy that Ophelia had read in her books. But because the narrator is omniscient and it's not her talking about this kind of dream world, we can assume that it's all true. I mean,
I know that
in the reality of the story, it's crazy, but it's true, I guess.
No, you're right that having him do the narration versus having Ophelia say, if it was Ophelia giving the narration, you easily could have bought in that she was reading from one of her books. Now you could also interpret it as she's picturing Fano narrating this story from one of her books, but that's a
leap outside of film language.
No, I know that's definitely a leap out. But yeah, that I remember that being debate for a while of whether or not it was all real, because he likes to play with that, because like at the end when the captain comes across from her when she's talking to Fano at the center of the labyrinth, we only see her talking. He doesn't see Fano, or he just sees her.
Well, on top of that, you've got the tasks that the faun puts to Ophelia. One of them is, well, this isn't really one of the tasks. It's something he helps her out with the mother.
Yeah, with
getting that root in the bowl of milk, putting it onto the bed. Now, when she does that, the mother instantly starts feeling better and does better with the baby. When that root gets tossed into the fire, even if no one sees it kind of twisting and crying, the result is after that thing is dead, the mother starts bleeding profusely and everything goes south. So yeah, all the magic I think in this movie is real. There's not really I think if Del Toro was going for that, isn't she kind of hallucinating all this, there would have been more of an attempt to give the audience some more doubt, like placing an alternate angle on that, or having some kind of skepticism on the part of the characters,
or having a couple of scenes where she's either talking or something, and suddenly an adult pops into the room and you find her, or they're looking at her and she can't, they can't see who she's talking to. I could see that, but yeah, watching it a second time, it definitely felt more like, no, this is real. This is real magic going on in here.
Yeah. I mean, it's a fantasy, but it's not a hallucination.
Right. Well, watching it now being 20 years older, because yeah, I didn't even realize when I scheduled this film that it was its 20th anniversary this year of Pan's Labyrinth. But, watching it again, I realized that the magic part was more real. And her, especially at the end after what happens, which we'll get to in a minute, it's like, oh, that's kind of the happy ending to this, and you need that, because I was like sitting there going, okay, it ends on a downer if you take this as all being in her head, and I'd rather think of it the other way because it's so brutal.
It is, especially, when she gets shot. It's not like she dies right away. It takes her a long time to pass away, especially because there's a shot of her like lying on the ground. Then Mercedes comes over and she's just lying there and her eyes are fully open. I don't think she's moving. But then we go in and we see the whole kind of golden afterlife thing. And when we come back out, she is breathing. We see that little bit of a smile, like, how long has she been laying there with that bullet in her? Oh.
I mean, she's starting to turn like gray, but yeah, you could hear her breathing when Mercedes first finds her, which is like, oh my God, she's still alive.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah. It's because, yes, folks, what we're talking about is if you didn't like the bad guy, I mean, if you were kind of on the fence about the bad guy for all the other horrible stuff that he did during the film, we put a nice little nail in his coffin, literally and figuratively, when Ophelia, who, the first task she did for Fano was successful. The second one, she broke the rule because she goes into this fantasy realm and she has to get a knife out of a vault basically that's got a key, and there's this huge table full of delicious food, and one of the creepiest creatures ever to put to cinema. This really
also played by Doug Jones.
Played by Doug Jones. This very skin hanging creature where you see images like in the mural of it consuming children, and there's a pile of shoes alluding to the Holocaust, piled up, and she breaks the rules and she eats a piece of fruit, and you get that wonderful eyes in the palms look that it's still creepy. I watched this film, it's still fucking creepy,
and it became like a major part of the marketing, even though it's not in the movie for very long.
It's not very long. So she broke the rule, and Fano gets like pissed at her, and he bails on her. He says, yeah, no, you're gonna die out here as a mortal. But then he's like, oh no, you know what, I'm back. Tell you what, bring your brother. It's a full moon. We need the blood of the innocent to open the portal to take you back to the realm so you could be immortal. And she's got the baby there, which is, of course, her baby brother from our sadistic captain.
Who was just born. I don't know how much time has passed. And
Not
her mother
much.
dies in childbirth.
Yeah. And the mom dies in childbirth because of this kid. And then the rebels strike, and the captain makes his way into the labyrinth. And he comes up on Ophelia, and he takes his son, and he shoots Ophelia. Yes, this film was released in the U.S., and we have a child who gets cold-blooded murdered.
Yeah.
I remember watching this, and it's not often my jaw drops. My jaw dropped because they literally and figuratively pulled the trigger on doing something that they allude to that he would be willing to do, the captain, but you're like, they're not going. And
you keep thinking like the rebels are going to make it and stop this just in time, and we don't get that. The rebels arrive like seconds after he shoots Ophelia. As soon as he turns around and walks out, baby in his hands, that's where you have Mercedes and her brother standing right there, and like a militia behind him, and the captain at this point, I think at this point all his men are dead, because I think right before this happened, he's told by his second in command, we have like 20 guys left.
Yeah, they got 20 guys left, but
he knows I'm not making it out of this alive. That's when he clutches the watch and goes into that scene we were talking about earlier. Tell my son.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's why you don't feel bad at all when he gets your son's not going to know your name, you bastard, because he literally kills Ophelia. And the thing is, the way this is probably Del Toro's best film, because just this whole sequence, the way he handles it, the way he directs it and everything, the way it's acted by everyone involved is exactly what you want from that moment. Because it's not played up like, very dramatic. We don't see it on camera, him actually pull the trigger and shoot her. We hear the sound, but his hands just blow out of sight. And then we see her reaction, and she comes up with the blood. And then your mind puts together everything else. But the way he shoots her, he doesn't smile. He doesn't show anger. He takes his son, just looks at her and just goes, pop, and walks off.
Well, early on, she doesn't mean dick to him.
Well, yeah.
The only reason I'm even putting up with you is because I'm banging your mom.
Yeah.
I mean, that's basically the extent of his relationship to her. I don't care if you live or die. In fact, your death would actually make my life a lot easier, because then I don't have to deal with you.
Yeah.
That's basically the way he treats her the entire movie. And he's only I was gonna say he's only nice to her when her mother's around, but he's never even nice to her then. He's just more passive aggressive when the mother's around. He's just like whatever. Right? So yeah, I mean you get the feeling the moment the mother dies, the moment that she's Ophelia's standing in the hallway, and
the mom dies.
The medical team, because at this point he'd killed his doctor.
Right.
Because he discovered that he was helping the rebels. And the moment you hear them tell Captain Vidal that we saved the baby, but the mother is dead. I mean, he even tells his doctor, if there's a choice to be made, save the baby. She doesn't matter.
He just wants an heir. Yeah.
Yeah, that's all he wants is an heir. And that's why this is a guy who's not afraid to die. So you're not going to win by killing him. You have to win by taking away the only thing that matters to him, which is I have an heir. He's going to carry on, carry on my legacy. And the only way you're going to hurt this man is to tell him right before you kill him, you have no legacy. And I think that's why it's just such a perfect way for him to go. You took away the one thing he gives a shit about.
Oh,
yeah. But you mentioned it with the doctor and the resistance. And we've talked about how it was a surprise. You have this whole period war piece underneath these dark, fantastical storylines you have in here. But Del Toro handles it like you could take out, not that we would want to, but you could take out the dark fantasy parts of this film, put in maybe a little bit more with the rebels and some more character, and you'd have yourself a war picture. I mean, a serious handled war picture. I mean, it's not like he handles the warfare and the the espionage and all of this secret stuff with like kid gloves because I've got fantastical creatures in my movie. No, he still handles it with with the doctor. The doctor is, things, as you imagine with these films, things start to fall apart. The captain starts suspecting more that at least the doctor is in on it, and Mercedes might be in on it, and he's having more suspicions, and we see things, and they capture one of the rebels, the stutterer, and they torture him, and the doctor comes down to treat him because they wanted to torture this guy some more. And then you get that wonderful scene in the bed where the captain takes the vial of antibiotics, like the one they found at the rebel camp, and he just slides it into his pocket, and it's so like subtle. But then he comes back down after he realizes, the doctor is in on it.
And he holds them up side by side so we can see what he's seeing.
Right.
Because these are the antibiotics that Carmen is sneaking out earlier in the movie because the doctor hands them to her.
Right. But what I love is, and what made me trigger, and it's a long path. I apologize, folks, but the captain comes back. The doctor has peacefully put the guy they tortured basically down. He gives him a nice old solid shot of morphine, I imagine, like just let him pass and not feel pain. And there's this wonderful just bit of dialogue between the doctor and the captain, and he's like, you killed him, and he's like, yeah, and he's like, and they both know this is it. The doctor knows this is it. He knows when the captain comes back down that the it's up. He's caught. Yeah, and he doesn't even bother trying to cover it up or anything. He basically comes out and just tells the guy, yeah, I killed this guy because I know what you're going to do, and I know you know that I've been doing this. And
it's more I told you not to let him die.
That's right.
And he basically says, well, so I don't remember the exact verbiage, but it's something to the degree of sometimes you just got to do what's right, and not worry about what other people tell you to do. Not worry about orders, just worry about doing what's right.
Yeah.
And we see right before this scene, we see the doctor. We see Vidal brutalize this guy, coming at him with different tools and telling him, when I use this tool on you, it's the very beginning, and I might not trust anything you say. Pulls out a second tool, and he's like, "This one's going to make us really close friends." Then he pulls out another one and says, "By the time I'm using this one, I'll believe every word you say."
Right. Yeah, and then so when the doctor kills him, he comes back down because this guy, as we mentioned, is all about people following his orders, unquestionably. He comes down and goes, "I told you not to," like you said, not to kill him, and the doctor's putting his stuff away, and he says, he's like, he comes up to him and he basically says something along the lines of, with obeying orders without question. The doctor looks him in the face and just goes, only people like you can do that.
Yes. I forgot about that. That's what he says.
The doctor looks him in his eyes and he's like, only people like you could do that without, doing something without questioning it. And the doctor walks away and he gets shot in the back.
But he's also at that point insulting his pride, because he's like, these are orders that come to you from above. You're the big fish in a small pond. There's a bigger fish out there.
Mm-hmm.
And you attack their pride, and that's when they start to go nuts. That's when they start to lose it.
And that's what he does here, because that is his exact flaw, which he even admits. He goes, my flaw is pride, because when he gets Mercedes there and, he realizes Mercedes is the one that's been doing the smuggling and that, and he's going to torture her. He says, it's my pride because she said you overlooked me. I was invisible. And he goes, I guess that's my flaw, pride. And then he starts going through that same dialogue with the torture items. This is only she snuck this knife the whole time in her skirt, and she cuts the ropes and does one of the most brutal stabs I've ever seen.
It cuts open the side of his face. But yeah, they established that knife early, because she's got that knife throughout the whole movie. It's constantly just rolled up in her shirt. She unrolls it when she needs it to cut whatever she's got to cut.
It was they did the rule of three. Yeah, the third time it comes out is to attack Vidal. Yeah,
and the rule of three, and that's what's so brilliant about this film, is that all of these elements he sets up so they're not all out of just left field. Especially her knife, the rolling up. We see it twice. Third time she pulls it out. Not only does she cut her ropes, but while our prideful captain is whipping out his tortures. I'm not even talking about this cut, because the cut in the face, I'm like, okay, that's kind of the Joker. You want to know how I got these scars?
2 years before that, by the way.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is
2 years before that. But the one that makes me wince every time I watch it is the one where she just stabs him in the shoulder blade. And we've seen that before, and we figure, she's just going to go like this. No, she stabs him, and she runs the knife out.
She drags it. It's brutal.
And I'm just like...
And then when he's sewing himself back up afterwards, because she walks back out, and she walks right past the guard, and the second in command is like, wait a minute. Wait, stop her. Wait, he wouldn't let her go. And she manages to escape into the woods, and we get that great scene where they follow her, and you get the the Yandu whistle, basically, like just great scene again. A great scene in a movie that's filled with great scenes too.
Yeah, it is. The poor captain, he needs a sharper needle for his stitching, because that thing was dull, because he's struggling, and you're watching him in the mirror trying to, and you're just like, oh, God.
It's showing us, it's seeing if we're going to struggle. It's you struggle with it visually, because we've all, it's an old Dario Argento thing. And Del Toro is a big Argento fan. Where he talked about why somebody in the 70s asked him why his killers always use knives and use elemental weapons instead of guns. He goes, because not everybody can relate to being shot. And they, he talks about that scene in Deep Red where the guy's getting his face bashed into like the corners of cupboards and stuff. He's like, I like to use things that everybody can relate to. We've all been stitched up. And for him to be doing it to himself with no anesthesia or anything, we understand.
Well, and then he does that. Del Toro manages to work in just a little slice of humor into this, because after he stitched it up, he goes to take a shot from his liquor, and he's like, and he comes through the
blood and the booze comes through the band. Yeah. Oh, it's nasty.
And well, even with that, Mark, because this is at the point where the rebels are just coming out to attack. Just before they attack, Ophelia is sent on her task to get her brother by the Fawn, and she has this vial of medicine that was given to her mom, which was supposed to, take care of her illness, calm her down. And we, again, in rule of three, like you were seeing, Ian, we see it 2 times before this. The little girl notices it. And the 3rd time she uses it to drug the captain. But again, it's another thing that's not out of left field. It's not like she sees the vial and then, suddenly on the table and uses it right away. She's seen it a couple times before and understands what it does, and she uses it. So he does great in setup. All these little things that when you pull the trigger, or no pun intended, or do these things, it makes sense within the context of the film. It's not just out of left field, or she just doesn't know these things. It's all set up and execution, and he does all of that, I think, really well in this film. Really well.
Yeah.
We got some comments here on the side. We got Billy Judd showing up, who let's see if we can pull these up. There we go. He says, "Hi guys," and then mentioned Doug Jones didn't know the film was not in English. I'd almost believe that. But apparently, though, the legs too for the fauna were not CGI. Those were practical. Apparently the suit was very uncomfortable. It was like a variation of stilts that they used for it. But and he's a bit of a contortionist himself. So, but apparently it was not comfy at all.
No, it wasn't.
And then we have Jim Henson's Labyrinth is better.
I do not agree. I do not agree.
Well, we have Genma who mentions that that's like saying E.T. is better than Alien. Don't think it's a very good comparison. I have to agree because they're 2 different films altogether. Yeah. But, this isn't going to be for everyone's cup of tea because it's dark, not only fantasy, but just dark in subject matter and brutality. As we mentioned, a child actually dies, like is cold-blooded murdered in this, it's brutal throughout. And it's scary and grotesque and oddly gothically pretty. This film is gorgeous.
It is a gorgeous movie, yeah.
Oh yeah. Just real quick on that Labyrinth versus Pan's Labyrinth. I want AI to make a version of Pan's Labyrinth that has David Bowie as the faun. Like just swap in the Elf King. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Sure. Now I'm picturing that. Wow, that's but no, visually, I mean, production value wise and visually cinematography wise, it's for the type of film it is too. It's just gorgeously shot. I mean, he had work done in these sets with the statues and the labyrinth and the ancient look and everything, and he lets the camera show you, hey, look at the work we did.
Yeah.
And it's worth it because I mean, and apparently the creature, the pale man at the feast I was reading up, apparently initially he wanted him to be a grotesque, like a big blob, like, for eating, and just this huge obese creature with eyes in his head. He had eyes in his head initially, but then halfway through production, they're like, Guillermo's like, I kind of want to do this, which probably had the design guys in the art room going, fuck, okay. but yeah, and I think it was a better call because I think it fits for the pale man creature because you've got a creature now who consumes so much, yet is skinny. The skin is hanging off, like never has enough.
Well, I like what struck me this time was the fingernails, because you got these long black talons, but they're not exactly fingernails because they just blend seamlessly into the flesh of his fingers. It's really off-putting.
Well, that whole creature is off-putting. Pale Man is like still one of the most. You wouldn't think of it something simple as, oh, we'll put the eyeballs in the eyes instead of but when he goes like this, it's just like that. Oh, it's still unnerving.
Doug Jones is fantastic in that scene too.
Yeah, he is. He gives the Pale Man characters so well, and he was wonderful as Fauna too. I mean, from end to end, this film is fantastical. It's it is like a grim fairy tale almost. If you think about it, the way it plays out in many ways, it's it's got all your dark elements in here as well. And we talked about it. And one final thing I want to talk about, because the final scene in here is interesting with the passing of Ophelia. When she does pass, she finds herself in this very regal room. It's probably the only one that they didn't build the whole thing, most of it, but not all of it. But she meets who is her father, and her mother's there, who happens to have a kid, by the way, if you notice. And it's very Christ-like, but not. I mean, he the king, the way he has his crown and that. I mean, I shouldn't say Christ-like. I should just say Christian, like, it's the way they portray like God or the afterlife or whatnot. In some way, he's an old guy, beard. He's got some of those elements in here, and I was like, okay, because there's a lot of gold around there and that. I'm like, that's where I think a lot of people were wondering, okay, did she actually like die and go to her version of heaven, or was it real? Because it's got all of those elements in there. But at the same time, maybe he's saying, hey, guess what? Christianity borrowed a lot from pagan rituals, including, portrayal of afterlife. The final scene is just interesting in the elements he puts in there when I watch it. And I watched watching it again this time, I'm like, I don't know. It's got the spirit of what you would see someone maybe in the afterlife running into, the gold and the stained glass windows and behind and that. But maybe it's just me because I was raised Roman Catholic, so maybe I was just having PTSD flashbacks from that. I don't know.
I can't speak to that. I don't have Catholic PTSD because I'm a practicing Catholic, so I can't relate.
I was also raised Catholic, so I got a lot of the.
No, there's just a lot of imagery. I'm not saying that he's specifically going for that, but the way some of the elements in that were put together, it just gave me the feeling of like I was back in church. And some of the paintings and such you see with gold and on a throne and all of that. I don't know. Maybe again, it's just me, but
I just thought it looked like something out of the Star Wars prequels. And the thing that still strikes me as kind of funny is the fawn is like, okay, so you can take your place in the throne next to your father.
Yeah. How's she going to get up there?
How's she going to get up there? I've always wondered that.
That was the thing that I saw with those 3 thrones. I was like, this seems like it would be a lot of work.
Yeah.
I'll stay here on the ground. You guys do that.
Or is that the best version of eternity? I have to sit in this.
What is the use of being God if I have to go climbing this thing every day? It's like, oh man.
Whose idea was that? I'll just sit here.
Oh, mine, because I'm the god? Oh shit. Don't listen to everything I say, guys. I need a little pushback here. Tell me when something's a terrible idea, like a throne 30 feet in the air. Probably not the best idea you had.
Oh. So, final thought, Joe, with Pan's Labyrinth.
It's gonna get a little personal here because I was very late. I was a very late birth for my parents. My father was 52 when I was born. My father was born in Italy in 1929. So if you start doing a little bit of math, my father was born in July of 1929. In Italy at the time, military service was compulsory once you turned 16. Mussolini was lynched in a gas station in April of 1945. So you do the math of what would have happened 3 months later. Had Mussolini not died, my father would have been forced to become a brown shirt. So a lot of this for me, it's a lot of it is hearing the stories because my parents grew up in Italy in World War II. They grew up under Mussolini's reign. So a lot of the stuff that I would see, a lot of the stories that I would hear from my parents and then see in this film, it struck a different chord with me because, like, to me, it sounded like the kinds of things that they would tell me, about what happened obviously not the fantastical stuff, but I'm sure they all knew people who were on either side, whether they were pro Mussolini or if they were among the rebels. So the story takes a little bit of a personal tone with me. And I'm a kid who loved fantasy films and horror films and all that stuff growing up. And this movie, I feel like it's the perfect mix of doing a historical World War II drama set in Europe with, the small band of resistance, which I always like this stuff better than like your giant war movies where everything's like a big war set piece. I always like these better, but I realized as I'm getting older, I always like the smaller stories anyway. I always like the stories about, small groups of people as opposed to these giant things. So it kind of struck a nerve with me there that I feel like it's kind of the perfect mix of doing like a historical World War II drama, a fantasy film, and at times a horror film. And it does a good job of mixing the fantasy horror with the real life horror. And going back now and I've seen every Del Toro film. Going back now and looking at it, and it's been a few years since I've seen it. I've gone back and I think I can firmly say Devil's Backbone is probably my favorite, but if we're talking about like just hands down great filmmaking, I think this is his best movie. By a mile too, and I'm not even and I don't even dislike any of his movies. I just think this is his best movie, period. And I think it's way better than everything else. And I think everything else of his is at the very least good. So take that for what it is.
And Ian, for you, sir, your final thought?
I mean, I've kind of made my thoughts on his overall filmography known earlier, but I will say I think there's plenty of not good Del Toro films, but I think it's partially because the further he gets into Hollywood, he's now in that place where no one can really tell him no. And in a certain case that's fine, but I would like him to get back to something a bit more personal. He doesn't need to be trapped in IP land. There's talk about him maybe coming back to Hellboy. There's talk about him, he's nominated for Frankenstein. Pan's Labyrinth, I think, was his peak, aside from Crimson Peak, which I haven't watched recently enough to say where I think those line up, but I still think Pan's Labyrinth would have the advantage, because I think a lot of Crimson Peak has to do with atmosphere and production design being really effective in aiding a really cool story. But I think, as we've discussed here, Mark, you said you could take the fantasy elements out of this and have a great war movie. You can also take the war movie out and have a great short fantasy film that I think works on pretty much every level. So we actually have a couple of comments here that I kind of circled to what I wanted to close out here with.
Yeah, I was just going to pull them up. Actually, Billy Judge said Guillermo del Toro is making a film based off of the short film Alma.
I don't know that one.
I just looked it up actually, and involves a creepy animated doll. Go figure. So if that's the one I think Billy is referring to, so yeah, give me some of that, Del Toro. And then
I'm going to take a hard pass on that one. I'm done with creepy doll movies, dolls. Even if they're done by Del Toro, because I think that could be a disaster. But
and then Jenma Rock says, what other mythical creatures would each of you like to see Del Toro bring to life? Would you love to see his version of At the Mountains of Madness or Moby Dick?
Ooh, Moby Dick would be great under.
I was going to say Moby Dick is the one I want to see him play, or to not play, but play with.
Yeah.
At the Mountains of Madness, I feel like it's too obvious, because he's just going to get into the Lovecraft thing. He's going to show everything. It's going to be a bunch of tentacles and stuff. I mean, I think his best stab at Lovecraft was the brief shot you saw in Hellboy of the creature out in deep space, kind of like waking up. But yeah, that's I want to see Del Toro either go really personal or go like really literary and smart, because I had forgotten that he wrote this screenplay. And I don't think anything he's done in the 20 years since comes close to being as smart and as cohesive as this, including the movie they won the Oscar for, which I know you love it, Mark, but I think Shape of Water is an abomination.
Moby Dick was one that stood out to me there, because I think his version can rival John Huston's. I think it would be fantastic.
It'd be interesting to see what direction he would take that story for sure. He could definitely do it justice, I think, for sure.
If he comes out and says, I want to adapt Moby Dick because it's one of my favorite books, then I will guaranteed not watch it.
Well, and there you have it, folks. For me, Del Toro said, Billy Judge said Del Toro should voice Moby Dick's vocal effects. Sure, why not?
Don't make me laugh. I have a cough drop in my mouth.
No, just kidding. Anyway,
choke to death on a cough drop. What a way to go!
On a live
on camera, though, it'd be captured for all eternity. But yes, I agree. I think Pan's Labyrinth probably the best film he's put out. It's the one that struck the most with me. Like I said, after I watched it a couple times when it had first come out. I saw it in theater, and then I think I saw it on video, and then I hadn't watched it since, which is one of the reasons I wanted to revisit it. And just, it's one of those that stuck with me, though. Watching the film again, I'm like, yeah, I remember all of these scenes. It's like, it's a film that you only got to watch once or twice, and it sticks with you because it has all the elements we talked about tonight brought together in how you want a film like this to come together like this. You know, and yeah, it's a beautiful, a hauntingly, tragically beautiful film that I think really people should watch and go, oh, that's what you can do with cinema, huh?
I could have dealt with another hour of this movie if he decided to stretch this out because it is just that good.
There's a lot there.
There is a lot more he could have done. Yeah.
I wonder if it's the 20th anniversary and he's, Oscar nominated. It'd be great for Fathom or something to do a big screen re-release of this.
Oh, I would
love to see this on the big screen again. Yeah.
I would definitely love to see this in a big screen in a dark theater again for sure. So there you have it, folks. Pan's Labyrinth. We've got a winner. Everybody liked this one. So thank you so much, every single one of you who's tuned in tonight. Billy Judd, thank you for contributing to the chat, as well as Jenma. Always a pleasure. Ian, Joe, this is where you get your license to shill. So Joe, you got anything to shill?
At the moment, no. So, you know what? I will show one thing, and it's not something for me. Ian and Jeffrey York apparently did a podcast, and I haven't had a chance to listen to it yet, on one of my favorite movies of all time, Howard Hawks' adaptation of The Front Page, His Girl Friday. Absolutely adore that movie. If you haven't seen it, you can see it anywhere. It's in public domain. Go watch it. I've gone on record and said I think it's it might be the greatest romantic comedy ever made. I really think it is. And it's all by switching the Hildy Johnson character from male to female and casting Rosalind Russell and Cary Grant, who are so phenomenal at ad-libbing, and Howard Hawks just letting them go. Absolutely see that movie and then go listen to Ian and Jeffrey's podcast on it. I haven't heard it yet. I'm looking forward to listening to it tonight.
Fair warning, Joe.
Okay.
Jeff and I both love the movie, but on rewatching it, and this is what we spend a good part of the discussion on, it's a dark movie about despicable people, and it's all covered up by this rat-a-tat-tat snappy dialogue and a happy ending, which it absolutely does not deserve. I've seen only like a couple of times, I think, in my life, and rewatching it for that show, I was like, wow, these people are messed up. And not even just like Hildy and Walter,
I was gonna say,
but like
including all the reporters in the press room
and the politics and everything surrounding it. Like you can watch this movie once and just kind of get a feel for it, but if you watch it twice and really pay attention to what's going on in the heart of the story, it's a dark freaking movie. I love
and the more times you watch it, the more you notice different lines of dialogue that are in there and different things that different characters are saying and doing. You're like, oh my God, that's absolutely horrible.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like Capra's adaptation of Arsenic and Old Lace, also with Cary Grant a few years later, where that movie, it's played for laughs, but man, there's some dark undertones in that too, but that was always in the play anyway. But
I've not seen it. I gotta check that out. Okay, sorry, I'm stepping
No,
on your show.
And
for those,
I mean, hell, I was shilling for you, so you could go ahead and just carry on from there.
and for
I'm looking
those
forward
out
to seeing
you,
it tonight.
for those out there who will not watch a film before the 2000s, you should check out His Girl Friday. And if that sounds familiar, it's because it was featured in the background in the horror movie last year, Heart Eyes.
That's
And
right.
some people will even argue that Heart Eyes is a horror spiritual version of His Girl Friday.
You told me that before I watched Hard Eyes, and I absolutely saw it.
Did you?
Because it was, again, constant bickering back and forth. Two characters who really aren't the most likable.
Yeah. So so there's that reference there, folks. And yes, Ian, go ahead. The floor is yours, sir.
Oh, well, thank you. As Joe alluded to, I am Ian Simmons of Kicking the Seat, which you can find at kickseat.com, and also right here on YouTube. I do interviews and reviews and all that other good stuff. If you dig through the kickseat.com archives, you can find an interview I did with Doug Jones back in 2009. That was very fun. He's a
Nice.
lovely individual and everything you could hope to see in a human being, much less a Hollywood actor. And yeah, I'm also here on Sunday nights talking movies. And this Wednesday, we're doing a live stream at 8 p.m. Central on kickseat.com or on the YouTube channel, specifically talking Wuthering Heights, the Emerald Fennell adaptation at 8 p.m. Central. I can't wait to watch and talk about this movie. Okay, I can't wait to talk about it. I'm kind of dreading seeing it, but we'll see. I might be surprised. I might surprise myself.
It might surprise you. You never know.
Sometimes when you go in with a low expectation is when you find that you actually like something.
I'm going in with a flaming torch, Joe. Flaming torch.
And yes, specialmarkproductions.com for all your Movie Man needs for our archive as well. We will be hitting episode 600 later this year. We are close. We're only like 20 episodes or 22 episodes away from it already. So looking forward to that. But yes, head out over there. I've got a written review for a rom-com. I know, don't have a heart attack, called Solo Mio. That's up. I've got a number of reviews up and more coming this week. I've got a bunch of disc reviews that I'm going to be doing. There'll be an interview with an actress and producer I did that'll also be on the YouTube channel. I do a little bit of work sometimes, not a huge amount. But yes, thank you so much. And next week, join us again, Malkovich, where we will be talking about Malkovich, and we are going to be talking about being John Malkovich as we close out our Through the Door month, and that'll be a fun conversation for sure. So stick around, folks. Like, subscribe, bells and whistles and all that here, and like and love all the stuff here that our crew members do. And until next time, we'll just say good night, everyone.
Good night.